Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It's that 2014 Marvel film that, honestly, still gets people talking.
It really does. Quite a standout.
Yeah. So we've got the IMDb Pro details, directors Anthony and Joe Russo, the writers Marcus and McFeely, plus Joe Simon, of course, and the stars, Chris Evans, Samuel L. Jackson, Scarlett Johansson.
And the whole crew.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, we also dug into a whole bunch of user reviews from IMDb. Lots of them.
So the idea is to kind of piece together why it hit so hard, right?
Yeah.
Using what actual viewers said.
That's the mission, to figure out from all that feedback what really makes this film resonate with you, the audience, so strongly.
Okay, so where do we start? The general vibe.
Let's do it. So the overall feeling is, well, incredibly positive. IMDb itself has it at 7.7 out of 10, which is solid.
Pretty good, yeah.
But the user reviews, that's where you see the real passion. Just tons of 9s and 10s out of 10.
Yeah, people didn't just like it. Many flat out say it's one of the best MCU films ever. Some even say the best.
Which, in a universe that big, is saying something. That kind of praise really makes you sit up and take notice.
And something that kept popping up was this idea that it was a big jump from the first Captain America movie.
Oh, definitely. Loads of reviewers specifically called it a major step up, which kind of suggests the first one maybe didn't quite land the same way for everyone, but this one really clicked.
Right. It found its groove, maybe?
Seems like it. And the words they use, masterpiece, awesome, brilliant, must see, it's strong language.
Not just pretty good, it suggests like a real connection. People felt it was genuinely special.
So what was driving that? What were the big things people pointed to?
Well, one of the absolute most common points was the genre blend. People loved that it wasn't just a superhero film.
Right, they kept calling it a political thriller or an espionage movie mixed in with the superhero stuff.
Exactly. That mix seems to be key. It wasn't the standard formula.
And that leads into the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of comments about it being more serious, darker than usual for the MCU.
And that's where those comparisons to, like, 70s political thrillers came in, which is pretty interesting for a comic book movie.
It is. That idea of paranoia, mistrust. It seems like that really resonated. Why do you think that connection was so strong?
Well, maybe it felt a bit more grounded, tapped into some real-world anxieties, perhaps. Made the stakes feel, I don't know, more tangible, even with the super soldier stuff.
That makes sense. It wasn't just about saving the world from aliens this time.
Right. And along with that atmosphere, the action got huge praise, consistently called out as exceptional, top-notch.
Yeah, people weren't just talking about spectacle, but the quality of the action, the choreography.
Totally. Words like well-crafted, intense, even realistic kept coming up, which is interesting for superhero fights.
And the shield. People loved how they used Cap's shield. Innovative, apparently. Integral to the fights.
Yeah, not just a defensive thing. And brutal, hard-hitting. Those words suggest it felt visceral, really landed.
How do you think that realism, or perceived realism, helped the film?
Maybe it made Cap feel more vulnerable, like he was really in a fight using skill, not just powers. Made him more relatable, perhaps.
Good point. And you need good characters for that action to matter. Chris Evans as Cap really seemed to hit his stride here for a lot of viewers.
Definitely. People mentioned his struggle dealing with the modern world, figuring out who to trust, that internal conflict.
Gave him some depth beyond just the man-out-of-time thing.
Right. And Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, seen as really strong, really crucial.
And interestingly, several reviewers specifically said they liked that her relationship with Cap wasn't romantic.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too. They appreciated the focus on partnership, on equals working together.
Kind of refreshing, maybe. Avoiding the usual tropes.
Seems like it. And then you've got Samuel L. Jackson getting more to do as Nick Fury, which people liked.
Big time. Plus, Anthony Mackie coming in as Falcon Sam Wilson, universally seen as a great addition.
Good energy, good chemistry. And the villains. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier.
Huge praise for him. Menacing, compelling, but also that personal connection to Cap.
That emotional core was vital, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And Robert Redford, having him as Alexander Pierce, added that weight, that kind of classic thriller vibe.
Yeah, real gravitas. So great characters, great action. How about the story holding it all together?
Well, the plot itself got a lot of positive comments. Well-constructed, cohesive, engaging. People liked the twists.
Kept them guessing. It wasn't just A to B.
And the themes were a big deal, too. Trust, betrayal, freedom versus security, identity.
Yeah.
Reviewers felt it tackled these thoughtfully?
Elevated it, maybe. Beyond just a simple good versus evil plot.
I think so. And it was interesting. A few people pointed out they liked that the villain wasn't just one guy, but this whole shadowy organization. HYDRA, embedded within S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right, creates a different kind of threat. More insidious, maybe. That unease really fed into that thriller feel.
And you can't ignore its impact on the whole MCU. People consistently mention that as a major strength. This movie mattered to the ongoing story.
Oh, for sure. It wasn't standalone. It had huge consequences. Felt like a pivot point for the whole universe.
Which definitely adds to its weight and why people keep coming back to it.
And behind the camera, the Russo brothers got a lot of credit for pulling all this off.
Yeah, praised for handling the action and the story so well. Especially, as you mentioned, coming from comedy backgrounds.
Quite the achievement. And the writers, Marcus and McFeely, praised for the script, the wit, the depth, weaving in those political threads.
They found that balance, it seems, between the superhero action and the smarter thematic stuff.
Even the music, Henry Jackman's score, generally got good reviews.
Yeah, adrenaline pumping, set the mood. That Winter Soldier theme is pretty memorable.
It is. Though fair enough, we did see one review that found it a bit underwhelming.
Always happens. Can't please everyone, right?
Right. A good reminder that it's all subjective to some extent.
So, stepping back, where does this film sit in the whole MCU picture, according to the fans?
Well, it's consistently ranked way up there, among the best standalone films, definitely. Some people even prefer it to the big Avengers team-ups.
Wow, really? Over the ensemble movies?
Yeah, that came up more than once. And compared to other films around that time, Phase 2 stuff like Thor, The Dark World, or Iron Man 3.
Seen as a big step up.
Very much so. Like, it set a new standard or showed a new direction the MCU could take for a lot of viewers.
Okay, but it wasn't perfect for everyone. We should touch on the criticisms, even if they were minor.
Sure. Some people mentioned small plot holes or things feeling a bit too convenient for the heroes sometimes.
The usual suspects for action movies, maybe.
Kind of. And one person felt the serious tone didn't quite mesh with the wider MCU, which is, often lighter.
That's a fair point about maintaining consistency across a whole universe.
Yeah.
Tricky balance.
Yeah. And a couple found it maybe a bit slow in parts or didn't love the shaky cam action some directors were using back then.
The Bourne effect.
Maybe a bit of that. And a few specific questions like, where does the Winter Soldier get his power? Not really explained.
Okay. Or the classic shared universe problem. Where are all the other Avengers while S.H.I.E.L.D. is collapsing?
Exactly. That one comes up a lot with these movies. Valid questions, even if most people were swept up in the story.
So overall, putting the IMDb data, and especially all those user voices together, it paints a pretty clear picture.
I'd say so. Captain America. The Winter Soldier really landed because it mixed genres effectively, took on a more mature tone.
Delivered amazing action sequences that felt impactful.
Had compelling characters, strong performances across the board.
And a plot that was twisty, engaging, and actually had major consequences for the bigger story.
Yeah, the praise is just really consistent across almost every aspect. It's easy to see why it's held in such high regard.
Absolutely. It just worked on multiple levels.
So that leaves us with something for you, the listener, to think about.
Given how Winter Soldier explored those themes of trust, government power, freedom versus security, and how much it shook up the MCU, what kind of real-world parallels, or maybe just lingering questions, does digging into these fan reactions bring up for you about heroism and authority today?
That's a deep one to end on. Definitely food for thought.
For sure. Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.